What's up guys, I'm Evan Bacon and today I'm going to be talking about using Firebase Cloud Messaging on an iPhone in an Expo app specifically. So the reason you would be watching this is say you tried to make an app with Expo and you weren't able to get it to work exactly how you wanted, so you needed to detach. And if you do detach, then the notification system in Expo will no longer work with your app. So this is a great alternative to that. It is super full-fledged, all the features that you want. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that. If you haven't seen the last few videos about detaching your app and adding Expo Firebase or setting up Firebase messages in Android, I would suggest you go check those out. In the Android one, I discuss why you would want to do this a little bit more, and I talk about the difference between messaging and notifications. I'll touch on a little bit of these things here today, but I would recommend you check those out. While we're at it, you should also, subscribe so that you don't miss more videos, because again, we're just going to touch on Firebase Cloud Messaging today, and I'm going to get into Firebase notifications later. The difference between Firebase Cloud Messaging and notifications is that Cloud Messaging is the application that you install on your device that allows you to send and receive messages and notifications, and then notifications is like an integrated system that's in the Firebase console that allows you to take all of your existing analytics and then create user segments and send notifications to those user segments. It also has a great API for sending and for receiving push notifications and remote notifications. Okay, so at this point, what you should have is an understanding of how Expo works. You're going to unfortunately need an iTunes developer account for this, which means you got to pay that $99 a year. It's very, very expensive. There's no way around it if you want to send notifications, even in debug. I don't know why Apple's made it so hard. But because this is a detached Expo app, you're also going to need a Mac or some kind of OS X device so that you can install the app onto your iPhone. You're also going to need an iPhone. So you need a lot of expensive. You got to give Apple a ton of money to make this tutorial work. Again, really sorry about that. I'm working on getting these libraries in Expo proper so that you don't have to deal with any of this nonsense. We're going to talk a little bit about the Firebase API that I've put together here and how to use it to receive notifications. We're going to test those notifications using a terminal command, and then we're also going to have to do a pod install. We're going to need to do a little bit in the app delegate. We're going to create an iTunes app, and then we're going to have to create a notification certificate. We're going to link that certificate to Firebase. So there's a ton of stuff to cover today, guys, so I'm just going to jump right into it. What you're going to need is a detached ExpoKit app or a React Native app, right? What that means is that you're going to have an iOS and an Android folder. So we're going to open up our iOS folder, and then in your project here, you'll see the pod file. Go ahead and open that. And then from our last tutorial for setting up for iOS, Firebase and iOS, we added this X Firebase app. Then we defined the path as being in the node modules, Expo Firebase app, iOS. Basically what we're doing here is we're saying a pod, and a pod is like an NPM package. It's just some remote library that you can add that you don't have access to editing inside of that project. So when you install a unimodule with Expo, it downloads the Android code and the iOS code, so we need to link that code. That's what we're doing here in the pod file. So we do that with the Expo Firebase app, which is our core Firebase module. You need that to make any Firebase Expo thing work. And then we add messaging and instance ID. And again, guys, if you don't like video tutorials, which I would totally understand, you can find all the instructions for these on the npm package page, which is npmjs.com/package/expo Firebase messaging. We also use instance ID. The reason we use instance ID is so that we can get the token for the device so that we know which device to send the notifications to. That one's a very easy library to install just because you add it and then you don't have to do any extra code setup. Again, if you guys don't want to watch the video, I totally understand. Link to all the code will be in the description along with the link to this page, and you can just go through and run through these if you need. Because, I mean, even here, like enable capabilities, I totally forgot to mention that. I won't forget though during this video. So we add the pod right here, and it's super easy. You can copy and paste these in. But we need messaging, so add messaging, add instance ID, remember capital ID right here, and then we're going to reference where those are located. If you don't have these installed, which why would you, because I didn't tell you about that yet, what you're going to want to do is go to your terminal, Command-Shift-tilde in VS Code, and then do yarn add Expo Firebase messaging. and then Expo Firebase instance ID, right? Go ahead and add those two libraries so that we can link them here. I'm not going to do that because it might mess with my linking that I've already set up. The reason why I'm not doing this all live is because I'm doing all the screen capture and mirroring screens and all that, so like it will corrupt the footage if I try to do it live. I know that because I've tried already. So just bear with me. I'm sorry about that. This is the best we can do. So after you've linked this code, then we need to go and do a couple of things in our app delegate. So open up the name of your project right here, and you should see app delegate. You can open this in Xcode. It's probably easier because you have autocompletes. I'm just going to run through it in VS Code for right now. I'm going to close the sidebar with Command B. And in here, what you're going to want to do is import Firebase messaging. It's named a little differently than the pod, so it's X, then Firebase messaging / Firebase messaging.h. That's the header file, which contains the reference to the code that we'll need to link in this app delegate. So make sure you go ahead and pull that in. You'll notice that there's a bunch of things that aren't from the Expo kit. These are from the boilerplate, which I discuss in the setting up Firebase and iOS video. Link to the boilerplate will be down below. Basically, the way this works is we use all these special include, what are they called? Things. We use all these include things to see if this import is available, and if it is, then we're going to import it, and we're going to just set up all the code. The reason I do it like this is because whenever I make one of these apps, I like to just copy this whole thing and just put it in here so that if I add a library, it'll just already be set up. That's a solution that I use, but I'm still going to walk you through what we're doing on a very a granular level here. So we're going to add this import at the top of the file, right, at the top of your app delegate.m. I'm being very thorough. If you didn't watch that other video, that's fine. What you're going to need to make sure that you import, which one is it? Firebase core / fur app.h, and then you're going to need to call this line in your application did finish launching with options for app configure. What this does is it configures the Firebase app. We call this right before we set up our React Native app, just so that when we do our React Native stuff, everything is ready to go. So if we call some Firebase command, we know that it's initialized. So make sure that that line is prior to this and that it's going. You don't need any of these other lines right here, just this one and then your React Native window. Sorry if this is a little confusing. It's a very messy system. I've spent a lot of time trying to think of the cleanest, simplest way to teach you guys this. Maybe this isn't it, but I hope it is. Then we need to do one linking command. Now you can find what these linking commands are by checking what's in the header file right here. Just in case, like in the future, if they change, I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of how to do this so that you're not dependent. I'm actually going to open this one in Xcode so that I can show you. So in Xcode, I've opened the project by clicking on the white XC workspace project. And now I'm going to command control and click on this header. And in here, you see I can, I hope the font is big enough too, by the way. In here, you see I have, this is the only function, and then instance is the shared instance. So we need to assign this function to the matching app delegate function. The reason I tell you this is because this is an RC version, so in the future it might change. For instance, I might delete all these. So if you were to check the header file and nothing was there, or there was an extra function there, now you know like what you'll need to include. And then these map to just internal methods, but we don't need to worry too much about that. It's just some behind the scenes magic. So we copied that name from the header, and now we're searching for it, and you see here's the matching app delegate method. Inside of this app delegate method, and let me try to close that down because there's a lot of text on the screen right now. Inside of this, you see I already have the line, but we call X Firebase messaging, and then we grab the instance. Now, if you're not familiar with Objective-C, that's fine. It's a hard language. But if you think about JavaScript, right, X Firebase messaging dot instance is kind of how this would look. But because it's Objective-C, we use this bracket syntax instead. So go ahead and use this bracket syntax. Instance is a static instance. So that's why we're calling it like this with the class name again, if you're familiar with JavaScript, if you make a static variable, you can reference it from the class directly. So kind of in the similar vein. I hope that makes sense. It's hard to explain Objective-C. Seriously, try it if you don't believe me. It's very difficult. But after we get the instance, then we just want to call that function. If you're in Xcode, this will autocomplete. So if we type in did, it will be like receive remote notification. Then just type in the user info, and we're good to go. Now we've piggybacked that function into our module, so it knows how to get the data. That is all we need to do with Objective-C coding. So we can go ahead and save this, and don't run it to your phone just yet. I need to try and remember how to open up the side panel. Oh, right over here. We need to do one or two more things. I can't remember. Open up, if you click on YouTube clone or whatever your project name is, then it will open up the settings for your project. Go to capabilities. This tab right here, this is very important. A lot of people forget this. And if you have an issue, again, comment below and we can work through it. Capabilities. Now scroll down here until you see notifications, push notifications, then go ahead and turn that on. But before you do that, make sure that your bundle ID is the one that you want and then it matches your app.json. I'm saying that because I'm about to do that. Okay, it is. What this is going to do is this is going to create it's going to create a certificate in the iTunes Connect store. So also, you know, make sure that you've got the right team here, which this isn't the right team, so I'm glad I checked. So I'm going to go ahead and change it, and I hope this bundle ID is still available. Okay, it looks like it is. So make sure you've got your correct team in here, because once you do, it's going to register this bundle identifier. So if it's the wrong team, then you'll need to refactor this bundle identifier across everything, including your Firebase project. So be careful. I hope I didn't mess this up in the editing or something, and that you get this in the right order. It's not too bad, but it's a huge pain, so it is too bad. Anyways, after you've made sure that you have the bundle identifier correct and you have your team correct, then go over here to capabilities, scroll all the way down, and do push notifications, turn that bad boy on, and you see its feature, it's adding it, has been updated in order. So all the time Apple's going to push some new features on you, and you're going to need to go and agree with that. So here it's saying there's some new developer program license agreement that I need to go agree with. I'll just show you how to do that, even though it's very specific, and you'll probably get some new tests that Apple is giving you, like go fight the dragon before we can allow you to do this thing. So to do this, we're going to go to iTunes Connect.apple.com, and then I'm going to sign in with my account. All right, and here we go. Updated developer program license agreement needs to be reviewed. This usually happens whenever like some country changes its law or something about like taxes, and so it's going to take me to another website because these aren't in the same area. Ugh. Oh my gosh, everything here gives me anxiety. All right, make sure that you're 18 before you click on this box. Okay. But pro tip, I was under 18 when I first clicked on this box and nothing changed. All right, looks like everything is agreed with over here. At least I hope it is. I'm learning this stuff for the first time, unfortunately. Go ahead and toggle this off, toggle it back on, and there we go. Okay, now it works. This is a very stressful thing, even for me, and I've done this seriously 50 times. Notifications are always hard. I message someone at least once a week trying to help them like work through this. So if you don't get it right, don't dislike the video yet. It's serious. It's just a hard process. Let's go back over to the NPM package just so that we're going down the list. Having a physical checklist is just really good. Over here in common setup, we see enable capabilities, done. Upload certs to Firebase. Okay, this is the part that we need to do. You can reliably produce a P12 file. Now there's a P8 and a P12 file. We're just going to do the P12 file for today, okay? You can reliably produce this P12 file with Fastlane. Okay, so in your iOS folder, what you're going to want to do is run this Fastlane produce. What this is going to do is it's going to create an app in iTunes Connect. And I'm sorry if that was gross what I just did there. So I'm gonna go back over to iTunes Connect and touch my eyeball really quickly so I get pink eye. Gonna go back over to iTunes Connect. Come on. It's seriously easier to navigate Putlocker than it is to navigate Apple's any of their websites. Okay, scroll down here. You see My Apps, click on My Apps, right? And there's gonna be a bunch of apps here that I'll probably blur out. So we're going to create an app entry in here. Now you can do it manually, but I like this other method that I've put in here, which is it uses Fastlane just because there's a lot of little things that it will take care of for us when we do it this way. So let's go over here and not in here, let's do it in VS Code. Open the terminal, Command-Shift-tilde. All right, now from our root folder, we want to navigate to the iOS folder like that. And then we want to type Fastlane produce. I hope this works on the first try. Please, please work on the first try. All right, enter your Apple ID username. This is the name that you use to sign in. For me, it's evanjbacon@gmail.com. Okay, now whatever your app identifier is, to get this, you could go back to iTunes. I have it matching the one in my app.json, com.evanbacon.youtube. All right, now it's going in. It's going to check if anything exists. If it does, this could be tricky, but luckily it doesn't. Now give it an app name, right? You can change this later, but try to get it right the first time, okay? Okay. There was an error. Apps of this type is not available. All right, so it looks like there's a corresponding issue. You will hit an error. This is maybe the 5th time I've tried to do this, and I have not once not hit an error. Yes, it's a duplicate of my old. I've checked their actions. Okay, I don't know why they linked us to an issue, which is a duplicate, but whatever. So they've linked us to a duplicate. Now we're checking show better error message when account has legal. So there's a legal issue with my account right now, and they haven't fixed this since 2016. Okay. Review the updated paid. So they had more than one warning, but they didn't
want to show me them all at the same time, but they do navigate me away from the website. I don't even have any paid applications. Why do I need to do this?
Okay, let me just first make sure I read this. I'll speed up the footage. There we go, sped up the footage. Maybe now it works, and I hope they didn't, because like you never know. I mean, they might have made the entry, Fastlane might have made an entry for that app and then failed, and so now like I might have to go and manually link things. So let's see. This is more of a just Evan gets upset while trying to do a basic iTunes thing. Let's go back over here. Let's try this again. Gonna hit up on the up arrow key and hit enter. Fastlane produce again. Apple username, of course. com.evanbacon.youtube. Okay, luckily we get to try and use Fastlane again. It's gonna be spooky tube. Now I imagine possibly there's a chance that this could still fail because maybe there was another warning that I didn't see because I didn't try going back. Let's see. Please update. Wait, did it work or did it not work? Like, I'll update Fastlane, but you better have worked. Come on. Did it really not work? Come on, no way. My apps. Okay, it did work. So we have the app entry. It just didn't want to tell us that it worked because it was too busy telling us to update it again. Gonna go ahead and update it. You don't need to do this. You probably don't even get prompted for it because maybe you're better than me and you just actually like update these whenever updates come out. I don't know. I don't know. Looks like it updated properly. I hope I can edit it so it looks good. We've added an app to iTunes Connect under our username that matches our app ID, right? The same app ID that's linked to Firebase. Now we need to generate that certificate and link it to Firebase. To generate the certificate, this should be very straightforward. I think I've only ever had one issue with this, and so that's on the lower side. Get Fastlane PEM. I don't know why I need to copy this, but it's just always for the best. Well, you never know. Still in that iOS root directory /iOS. Let's type Fastlane PEM or paste it. Now what this is going to do is it's going to generate a bunch of certificates for us. So you can create a file which specifies these, or you could pass them through as a parameter. I think it's -a or something. Or you could just do them all manually. What's the bundle identifier? com.evan bacon YouTube, right? Okay. All right, so that totally worked. And as you might have seen over here, we generated the 3 files. We have our P12, our PEM, and our P key. Now, these are production. You can specify to get development keys, but production works for both of them, so you should just be able to do it with this. What we're gonna do now is go over to your Firebase console under the app that you had created. Let's say that we came in on the default page that we come in on. Over here, you're gonna click on the gear and hit project settings. And now under cloud messaging, this tab right here, we want to scroll down. In iOS, we could pick the app. If you have multiple apps, make sure that you get the one that corresponds to the correct bundle ID. And now it's going to ask for the APNs file, which is like Apple Push Notification Service. I can't believe I nailed that on the first try. And then, all right, down here we've got the development or the production. So what we're going to do is for this last one right here, or actually let's do for development because we're still in development, right? It says upload P12 file. Hit browse and then go get that P12 file, which I have right here. It should be the only one that's like not grayed out. Now if there's a password, which we didn't enter a password, so you shouldn't need one, go ahead and just upload it. And you can upload this for both development and for production, so just whatever you want. Okay, so at this point you should be able to build your Xcode project. You should be able to build your project from Xcode onto your device. You need a physical device. You can't run this in a simulator if you want to do push notifications. Now the thing about this is that if you've done all these steps right or wrong, if you send a notification, there will be no indication. You just won't get the notification. So it's very jarring and racking. I'm actually kind of hoping I don't get it right away so that I can show you guys maybe a potential step. But I'm also still hoping that I got it. So let's check. We install our app, Xcode. I'm installing it now. Oh, I remember why I didn't. So I've got it screened right here, and you see I got the notification thing, and I didn't want to like hit that without you guys seeing it. So it's gonna like keep it here. I might as well just hit allow, whatever. You guys get it. There is JavaScript code in here which will ask for the permission. I'll show you guys that right after this builds. This is the same JavaScript code that we wrote in the last video setting it up for Android, but I'll give it a quick once over here for you now. App installation failed. It does not match that of the installed application. Something that I have noticed is that when you do things where you like update the notifications, certificates, or entitlements or whatever, do delete the app natively and just reinstall it, because I have had that issue where everything was set up right and the only thing like that fixed it was deleting the app and reinstalling it. So now I'm going to reinstall it. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and allow these. Hit allow. And the rest of this is just the Firebase setup that we had. So let's go ahead and review that code right now before we try seeing if the setup worked. In our app.js, let me close the sidebar. I'm going to scroll that down a little bit. Okay, so in setting up for iOS, what we did was we imported some libraries. We imported Firebase from Expo Firebase app. Then we imported some other libraries that we were using in the last video, setting up for Android. You see we imported messaging, we imported instance ID. Go ahead and import those now because those are the 2 libraries that we are going to be using. You don't actually need auth, analytics, or database. I would still recommend bringing in analytics just because you should for notifications to work properly. Now, again, you don't need to worry about this. You don't need to worry about any of this. All you need to worry about is what's after this, okay? So we asked for permissions, right? That was the bubble that we just saw. We get Expo permissions, and then we say permissions.askAsync permissions.notifications. You need that. If you don't have that, then over here you'll get a thing, and you should better just like do alert, hey, add it, because anything could go wrong here, so you got to be sure. And if you don't have it, then return. That's just what we're doing here. And then what we do is we set up this firebase.messaging.onMessage so that we can receive any data messages, not push notifications, but data messages from FCM. And then if we get them, we're going to pop an alert. We're going to log it out. By log it out, I mean console. We're going to log something to the console. We're not going to log out of anything. The verbiage here, man, the verbiage. You can tell I'm getting stressed, can't you? This is the most stressed I've ever been in my life. Just kidding. Not kidding. All right, so after we do this on message, right, we need to get the token so that we can send a message to this individual device. I'm gesturing to my device, which is right here. But yes, we get the token, then we're going to console log the token. So now if we go to check the logs down here, terminal 1. All right, you see we've got our token printed out right here. So I'm going to copy this token, and I'm going to put it in our bash command. Now, right here at the bottom right, going to go ahead and leave that there. This command is what we're going to use to test and send a debug message. I reviewed this in the last video. Basically what we're doing here is this is a curl command that we're going to put in the terminal. Think of that like just post, like a fetch post through React Native's JavaScript API. We're going to define the headers with this header parameter, which have our authorization key. To get this key, what we do is we go over to our Firebase project. Again, under project settings, cloud messaging, it's this server key right here. So go ahead and copy this key and then put it right here after key, no spaces or anything, up to here. And then we define our header, which is how the data is returned or how we like process it, pull it in, which is going to be application JSON. And then finally we say, here's the site that we're going to send this information to, and now we define some data. With the data, we have a to parameter, and with that parameter, we're passing through a value, which is this push notification token. I'm gonna go ahead and get that now. In fact, I should make a copy of this because this is my Android one. All right, perfect. To do that copy, I just held like Command and Shift and did the up on the arrow key or something, I don't know. Not that important. Okay, so I'm gonna take and replace the key with the iOS key, and then you need to make sure that the parameter message is defined, otherwise it will send it as something else. And then this is just some test information. Like this is a very non-practical, this is a very impractical way to send a message, so we're just using this for testing. Normally you would send something using the Firebase API and like a function, but with all the stuff that we just had to do, I figured it would be too much to also say, here's how we set up functions and do it the practical way. It'd be much better to fill the video with me rambling about how much I don't like Apple. So now that we have our curl command and we've put in the correct keys, I hope this works. Let's go over to a terminal window. Let's try it. Yeah, baby! Yeah! Yeah! First try. First try. Yeah! Yeah! Okay, neat. So it should have worked at this point. Now, this is a very common thing that will happen. It'll just work on the first try. If it didn't for you, then I don't know what's wrong with you. I mean, it happens for me on the first try. All the... I can't even do this with a straight face. This is the first time it's ever worked for the first try. I am so excited right now. We got our message. This is the greatest day of my life. I hope it worked. This is how you send Firebase Cloud messages to your iOS device. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm Evan Bacon. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow me on Twitter at something. I'm so happy that you guys were here to experience this moment with me. Yeah. All right. I'm going to see you guys in the next video where we talk about sending notifications. At this point, we've done all the heavy lifting. There's no more hard stuff. We'll just be installing like extra libraries, but there's no more like interacting with iTunes or any other BS. At this point, it's all downhill. It's all easy stuff from here. I'm going to see you guys in the next video. Which I'll probably film after running through the streets screaming about how happy I am. Yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Take care.